Hello, this is Mr. Roush, and I'm going to be talking about Module 16.4, solving x squared plus bx plus c equals 0 by completing the square. So if you look on the top of page 588, it says you need to find the value of c needed to make an expression such as x squared plus 6x plus c into a perfect square trinomial is called completing the square. So to complete the square for this expression, x squared plus bx plus c, you want to replace c with b divided by 2 squared. And this is going to turn it into a perfect square trinomial, so you're able to solve it. So here's the equation, the c equals b divided by 2 squared, and make sure that is in parentheses. And to get your b, it's going to be whatever is right there. So for example 1, we have x squared plus 12x plus c. So we need to solve and find out what that c is. So to be able to find out what that c is, we're going to use this equation up here. So we're going to do b divided by 2 squared. So our b right here is 12. So it's going to be 12 divided by 2 squared, which is 6 squared, which is 36. So our c is 36. So we're left with x squared plus 12x plus 36. Now these are perfect square trinomials. What you are essentially doing is creating a perfect square trinomial, and you know that whenever you take that and you factor out a perfect square trinomial, you're going to be left with x plus 6 squared. So if you take a look at letter B, for example, 1, let's look there. We have z squared minus 26z plus c. So we want to solve for c. So we're going to use our c equals b divided by 2, in parentheses, squared. So our b is negative 26. Negative 26 divided by 2 squared. So negative 26 divided by 2 is negative 13. Negative 13 squared, which c equals 169. So this is going to be a perfect square trinomial. So now we're going to be left with z squared minus 26z plus 169. So now when we factor this perfect square trinomial, you're going to have z minus 13 squared. So now what we're going to do is solve equations by completing the square. So if we go back here, go to our next page. So we're going to solve x squared plus 14x equals 15. So the first thing you're going to have to do is notice that there's not a c. So we're actually going to create a c. So we will have our x squared plus 14x equals 15. So I left a space right here because this is what we're going to have to do to complete the square. So to complete the square, we're going to do our b divided by 2 squared. So we have 14 as our b. So it's going to be 14 divided by 2 squared. 7 is 7 squared equals 49. Now, whenever you have something on the other side, like a 15 or any number on the other side of the equation, you have to use the golden rule of algebra, where you do whatever you do on one side, you must do on the other side. So we're going to add 49 to both sides. 49. Now, 49 plus 15 is going to get you a 64. And now on the left side, you see that that's a perfect square trinomial because you just created one. So with the perfect square trinomial, you're going to be x plus 7 squared equals 64. So now what we're going to have to do is get rid of the squared and then solve for the x. So to get rid of the squared, you're going to take the square root. And remember, you do it on both sides. So just like on Module 16.1, when you take the square root of 64, you're going to get a positive and negative 8. And you're going to be left with x plus 7 equals positive and negative 8. So now this breaks up into two different equations. So you're going to get x plus 7 equals 8, and then x plus 7 equals negative 8. Now when we solve this, we're going to get x equals 1, because we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. Now we're going to subtract 7, x equals negative 15. So those are your answers for example 2. I will also put some notes in Google Classroom for this as well, for you guys to take a look at. Now we just have one more part, which is solving real-world problems. So if we go on to the next one, we have Jenny's rectangular garden has an area of 2,816 square feet. The length of the garden is 20 feet longer than the width. Use the formula for the area of a rectangle to find the dimensions of her garden. So what we're going to have to do is actually draw a picture. Is going to be the easier thing to do here. So they have a rectangle, and you have length times width is 2,816. So we have length times width equals 2816. So what we're going to do is it says the length of the garden is 20 feet longer than the width. So the length is going to be 20 plus W, and the width is just W. So when we multiply those together, so width is going to be W times W plus 20 equals 2816. So now we're going to distribute. W times W, W squared, plus 20W equals 2816. Now I intentionally left this blank, this spot right here, because we're going to complete the square. So by completing the square, we're going to do our b divided by 2 squared. So 20 divided by 2 is 10, squared is 100. So we're going to add 100 to both sides. So on the left, you see that that is a perfect square trinomial. So we're going to be left with W plus 10 squared equals 2916. So the taking the square root of 2916 is going to be 54. So I'll have to go on to the next page. So W plus 10 squared we have to take the square root of both sides. So we're W plus 10 equals positive and negative 54. So now we have to break this up into two different equations. So W plus 10 equals 54. W plus 10 equals negative 54. We're just going to solve it. So minus 10. W equals 44. Minus 10, W equals negative 64. Now, you can't have a width that is negative, so we're going to get rid of that one, and now our width is 44. Now, to be able to find out what our length is width plus 20, so it's going to be 44 plus 20 is 64. Thank you, and if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can email me, and I'll respond as soon as I can. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.